This is what college football looks like, and it's the same everywhere. Good times eating, drinking, and we all sort of pretend like we know what the hell's gonna happen. So even though I'm in New York and not on campus, all season long, I'm eating, drinking, and figuring out what the hell's gonna happen in the games of the week. This is Easy Call.
I am literally under the Brooklyn Bridge right now, and literally in front of Juliana's Pizza. I love every single thing about that sentence. Let's go. All right, let's talk about week 13. Big 12, that's where it's all happening. Baylor undefeated, giving 8.5 points, going to Oklahoma State. No Big 12 championship game. This is probably their Super Bowl. Keys for Baylor. We know about that offense. How does the coaching staff, Art Briles, Phil Bennett, everybody like that, get this Bear team ready post-Oklahoma, post-Texas Tech? Do they still have the energy and ambition to go undefeated? We'll see. Next, they're on the road. Baylor's traditionally, these past couple years, not a great road team. Oklahoma State, Stillwater, tough place to play. We've seen good teams go in and really get shelled. And finally, the health. The running back position is a beat-up position. They were able to do it last week well, but against a defense like Oklahoma State, big, physical, angry defense like the Cowboys have, it's still a question how healthy they are. Look at this, sausage and peppers. It's a good way to start the day. Keys for Oklahoma State, that defensive front. That defense is going to be stretched. How well can they attack that running game with 5-6 men in the box? That's going to be huge. Next, the secondary, probably the best secondary in the Big 12, Justin Gilbert. As a whole, these defensive backs lead the conference in interceptions. Got to win those island battles. And finally, the running back position for Oklahoma State. If Desmond Rowland can get going, get into a rhythm, that's a tough task for this. It's a really good Baylor defense, but that's huge for them. You know what? I'm going big upset here. I'm going Oklahoma State. Not only covering, I'm going to have them winning this game. Let's call it 34-31. Everybody goes crazy in orange and black. You heard it here first. And to start things off first, sausage and peppers, classic. Fresh Mott's. A very simple sauce. You got good looking sausage. The char factor, big. I do the semi-fold because I like looking at my pizza. I don't go full folds. It's art. I like looking at it. That's great New York pizza. This is great New York pizza. Next game, Pac-12 South implications. It's kind of fun to say. Arizona State, 2.5-point favorites on the road at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. Keys for Arizona State, that defensive front, especially with UCLA's running game finally going. Miles Jack, not afraid of contact. How well can Arizona State not be afraid of contact? That's a huge matchup. Next for Arizona State, how well can they get DJ Foster and Marion Grice in space? The speed is big for Arizona State, especially lately. That's going to be a huge matchup. And number 3, for ASU, Taylor Kelly in the quarterback position. He's been very good all year, a little bit turnover prone. Can't do that against a good UCLA team on the road. Keys for UCLA, that defensive front against those speedsters for Arizona State. How well, especially since they have to respect the pass, can they wrap up Marion Grice, who's had an enormous second half? 2, the speed for UCLA. Brett Hundley throws a hell of a deep ball. How well can that running game set up the play action, especially deep? That's going to be interesting. And finally, coaching. Not crazy about the scheme with UCLA's offense. How well can they adjust? Because Arizona State, quite good on defense, especially against the run. What can they do to get their athletes in space? I'm going to go with the underdog at home again, UCLA 24-20. I don't like Arizona State on the road here. They haven't shown themselves to be the same team. Bruins, I'd clap 8 times, but that seems like a waste when there's pizza in front of me. We're going real basic, margarita, pepperoni, great pepperoni curling, which is so key and should be an event at the Olympics. Here we go. Perfect temperature. You got the little pepperonis, which I like. Again, next level charring. You got the fresh Mott's. Yeah, little pools of grease in the pepperoni. That's a secret. Yeah. Ooh. Next, to the SEC we go. One of the few SEC games in which somebody's not playing the Citadel or Alabama A&M. So congratulations, LSU, Texas A&M. I've had this game circled for a while. Johnny Manziel in Tiger Stadium at Death Valley. It's gonna be ridiculous. Keys for Texas A&M. The speed of Texas A&M is going to be huge. Probably going to be a shootout. Video game numbers needed. Mike Evans, Ben Molina, Trey Carson, everybody. Malcolm Kennedy. Hundreds of yards are necessary to beat this LSU team, probably. Next, the defensive front for Texas A&M, which has been awful, has to be just slightly less than awful. LSU hasn't been able to run the ball that well, but they're real bad and need a miraculous comeback. Finally, Johnny Manziel. Quarterback position is everything for Texas A&M. He needs to limit the dumb mistakes, limit the turnovers. Don't put yourself into a terrible situation against a fast LSU defensive front. A&M has a chance here. Keys for LSU, the defensive front needs to get to Manziel quickly, force him into not just bad decisions, but quick decisions, because Mike Evans can bail out Johnny Manziel like crazy deep. LSU hasn't been great defensively. Next, the running back position for LSU. They've been really underwhelming in the SEC on the ground, like surprisingly so with that stable of running backs. They need to get going against A&M's really, really bad defense. That would be a really easy way to pace this game quickly. And finally, coaching. How well can the coaching staff, especially on defense, John Chavis, to that Texas A&M offense that will put up most likely video game numbers in a huge game at Death Valley. I'm going LSU here. More to like about this game. I really still like Zach Mettenberger, especially against this A&M defense. I'm going to say 47-38 LSU, and probably the most fun game of the weekend. This is going to be awesome. And here it is, white pie. You probably are smelling garlic through that lens. It is strong. Oh yeah. So we have fresh mozz, no tomato sauce. You got basil, you got garlic, olive oil. Oh, it's so garlicky. Seasoned perfectly. This is what a white pie should taste like. The thinness of the crust is so key. Chicago. Okay, with so much cheese all around me, how do I not talk Big Ten? Exactly. Wisconsin, 15.5 point favorites, going to Minnesota. A pretty decent Minnesota team. The temperature at this game, probably gonna be less than the spread, around 14 degrees. That could affect things. Keys for Wisconsin, the running back position. Ran for 500 yards last week. If Minnesota, with the not so good run defense, can't stop them, oops. Next, it's a road game for Wisconsin coming off of a nice win against Indiana. Cold temperatures, that could affect things if they start slowly, like they did maybe against Iowa. That could keep the game low scoring. That's rough for Wisconsin. And finally, the defensive front needs to stop, especially Minnesota on the ground. David Cobb is the engine that makes this offense go. Good running back for Minnesota. That defensive front has been great against the run. Great matchup. Keys for Minnesota. Turnovers. They don't give them up because they're well coached. Can't give them up against Wisconsin, especially once that Wisconsin offense gets rolling. Key number this, Minnesota on the ground against the run, not so good, but they've had a week off, gotten a little bit healthier. It's basically a huge, huge game for them. They're not going to the Big Ten championship game. I like Minnesota to be improved against the run. They need to keep them to like 4.5 yards per carry. That's a tall order against this Wisconsin team. Finally, the quarterback position, Philip Nelson, needs to test this Wisconsin team deep. It's a very good Wisconsin defense. You're going to have to take their shots. Wisconsin's going to get theirs on offense. You're going to have to match at a certain point. Test Wisconsin deep. I like Minnesota to cover here. I think Wisconsin wins. Let's call it, I think it's going to be relatively low scoring. 27-17 Wisconsin. Yeah, I do like Bucky Badger, but okay, so we've got a cannoli here. We're getting rid of this pizza. I like Bucky Badger, but Minnesota keeps it close. The cold shrinks everything. Cannoli, rainbow sprinkles, standard cheese filling. Cannoli feels good in my hand. Good heft. That's what you're looking for in a cannoli, heft. And finally, last game. Okay, it's another SEC game. That's actually a good game. Ole Miss hosting Mizzou. Missouri 3.5 point favorites in Oxford. Keys for Missouri, getting James Franklin back. The running back position is going to be big. Henry Josie, get the weight off of James Franklin. Ole Miss's rush defense, not all that good, nothing special. I don't really like talking about it. Next, the defensive front for Missouri. Michael Sam in Dr. Bo's face early and often. Not crazy about this Mississippi offensive line. Missouri's D-line, nasty, angry, real fun. And finally, still an SEC game where Ole Miss is a pretty decent ranked team. James Franklin should be back with the rust factor. It can happen that Ole Miss is just a decent team at home, and that's hard to beat. Keys for Ole Miss, speed. They need to get Dante Moncrief. They need to get Laquan Treadwell, Jeff Scott active in space, especially in the return game. Change field position. They do have athletes. They are fast. That seems like a pretty decent thing. Lucky. Ole Miss needs to get lucky at times because Missouri top to bottom is more talented. Special teams play, weird turnovers, weird plays just in general, weather. Something needs to happen to get Ole Miss a break. And last key for the Rebels and Black Bears or whatever, they've got a bunch of babies on Ole Miss in a good way. 5-star freshmen, they need to step up now. They've had a full season under their belt. Laramie Tunsil, protect the blind side. Robert Comdice, attack James Franklin. A still kind of wounded James Franklin. Laquan Treadwell, get loose. Great receiver. They need to count on this youth because that's where the talent is right now for Ole Miss. I'd love to take Ole Miss. I've been searching for reasons to take Ole Miss. I'm going Missouri here. They're just so much better top to bottom. I feel like at this point, I'm going 35-17. I think it's close and they run away with it eventually. I just like Missouri in this game. We're gonna go to Twitter now. I asked for pizza questions. We're calling this Pizza of My Mind because puns but I have some questions. I'm very interested. We're gonna rapid fire this. Is it acceptable to dip pizza in ranch? Pizza, I guess. I mean, that's the only thing I would do with that. Bacon as a pizza topping. Debate that must be settled. You have pepperoni. You have Italian meats. Just say, you don't need to go cheap with bacon. Bacon's great. Don't put it on pizza. Next, why do you think the Chicago-New York pizza discussion is so heated? The Chicago pizza is not pizza. I like picking up pizza. I like folding pizza. I like having people over and like grab a slice. You can't grab a slice of Chicago pizza. It's fine. Like Jon Stewart said though, it's casserole. Next, if Baylor's offense was a pizza topping, what pizza topping would it be? I like this question a lot. Jalapeno. New, spicy, green, a little bit different, creative. Go jalapeno, go Baylor. Although I think I have them losing this week. All right, there you have it. Those are my picks. 36, 22, and 2 on the year. This week, Oklahoma State, LSU, UCLA, Minnesota. We're going Mizzou. I gotta go Mizzou here. I'm just gonna enjoy the sun, enjoy this view, just enjoy the day. See you next week.